Welcome to 100 Year Health, a channel dedicated to understanding the human body, healthy living, and the science behind everyday health questions. Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly forgotten why you went there? It happens to almost everyone. You leave one room with a clear purpose in mind. Maybe you planned to grab your phone charger, bring a glass of water, or check something quickly. But the moment you step into the next room, the reason you came there suddenly disappears from your mind. You pause for a second and try to remember. Sometimes the memory returns quickly. Other times you stand there confused, wondering what you were about to do. This strange moment can feel frustrating, but it is actually a very common feature of how the human brain works. Your brain is constantly processing an enormous amount of information. Every second it receives signals from your eyes, ears, muscles, and internal organs. At the same time, it manages thoughts, memories, emotions, and decisions. Because of this, the brain cannot treat every piece of information with equal importance. Instead, it must constantly decide which information should remain active and which information can fade into the background. When you decide to do something, such as walking to another room to get an item, your brain forms what scientists call an intention. This intention is stored temporarily in a system known as working memory. Working memory is like a mental workspace. It holds the information you are currently using or planning to use in the immediate future. For example, remembering a phone number for a few seconds or recalling why you stood up from your chair both involve working memory. However, working memory has limited capacity. It can only hold a small amount of information at once. If too many new thoughts, sights, or distractions appear, the brain may shift its focus away from the original intention. This does not mean your brain is malfunctioning. In fact, it reflects how efficiently the brain filters information. By prioritizing new stimuli, your brain can quickly react to changes in the environment. But there is another fascinating reason why simply entering a new room can make your brain temporarily forget what you planned to do. One of the most fascinating explanations for forgetting why you entered a room is something researchers call the doorway effect. Scientists studying memory noticed a surprising pattern. People were much more likely to forget their intentions after passing through a doorway compared to when they stayed in the same room. At first glance, this seems strange. A doorway is simply a physical boundary between two spaces. But to your brain, a doorway represents something much more meaningful, a change in context. Your brain constantly organizes experiences based on context. Context includes the environment around you, the objects you see, the sounds you hear, and even the lighting or spatial layout of a room. When you walk from one room to another, many of these environmental cues suddenly change. The brain interprets this change as the beginning of a new situation or event. In cognitive science, these transitions are known as event boundaries. Event boundaries help the brain organize experiences into manageable segments. Instead of processing every moment as one continuous stream, the brain divides life into smaller chapters. Each chapter contains its own set of details, actions, and memories. For example, your brain may treat cooking in the kitchen, watching television in the living room, and working at your desk as separate events. This system is extremely useful. It helps the brain keep information organized and prevents memories from becoming mixed together. However, this same system can also lead to small memory interruptions. When you cross a doorway and enter a new environment, your brain begins updating its internal event model. It shifts attention toward the new surroundings and prepares to process new information. During this shift, the intention you formed in the previous room may lose priority in your working memory. As a result, the brain may temporarily place that intention into a lower level of activity. This is why you may suddenly stop and think, why did I come in here? Interestingly, researchers have tested this phenomenon in controlled experiments. In some studies, participants were asked to carry objects across rooms in a virtual environment or in a real building. The participants had to remember certain tasks while moving between locations. The results showed that people were significantly more likely to forget their task immediately after passing through a doorway compared to when they walked the same distance within a single room. This suggests that the doorway itself is not the problem. Instead, the change of environment is what triggers the brain's memory reset. Another important factor is attention. When you walk into a new room, your brain automatically scans the environment. It looks for new objects, potential dangers, or anything that might require your attention. Even small distractions, a sound, a moving object, or a new visual detail can compete for space in working memory. Because working memory has limited capacity, the original intention may briefly disappear while the brain processes the new environment. But the memory is often not completely lost. That is why many people remember their original purpose after a few seconds or after walking back to the previous room. Returning to the original location restores the environmental cues that were present when the intention was formed. These cues can help reactivate the memory and bring the forgotten task back into awareness. This shows how strongly our memory depends on context and surroundings. The brain does not store memories as isolated pieces of information. Instead, it connects them with the environment, the situation, and the sensory details that were present at the time. But there are still a few additional reasons why these small memory lapses happen during everyday life. There are also several additional factors that can influence why these small memory lapses occur during everyday life. One of the most important factors is mental load. Your brain is constantly balancing many thoughts, tasks, and pieces of information at the same time. Even when you feel like you are focused on one simple action, your mind may actually be managing multiple processes in the background. For example, you might be thinking about a conversation you had earlier, planning what you need to do later in the day, remembering something you forgot to finish, or reacting to sounds and movements around you. All of these mental activities require space and working memory. Because working memory has limited capacity, the brain must constantly prioritize which information deserves attention. If a new thought or stimulus becomes more important, the brain may temporarily push the original intention out of the active memory space. This can make it feel as though the thought has completely disappeared. However, in many cases the information is not truly lost. It has simply moved out of immediate awareness. Another factor that influences these moments is distraction. Modern environments contain many small distractions: a phone notification, a sound from another room, a visual object that catches your attention, or even a random thought can interrupt your focus. When your attention shifts suddenly, the brain may interrupt the process of maintaining the original intention. This makes it easier for the memory of why you stood up or walked somewhere to fade temporarily. Stress and fatigue can also play a role. When the brain is tired, its ability to manage attention and working memory can become less efficient. Sleep deprivation, mental exhaustion, or emotional stress can all make these small memory lapses happen more frequently. This does not mean something is wrong with the brain. In fact, these brief lapses are often a normal side effect of how complex and active the human brain is. The brain is constantly filtering information, organizing experiences, and updating priorities. Small interruptions in working memory are simply part of this ongoing process. Interestingly, these moments also reveal something important about how human memory works. Memory is not like a perfect recording system that stores every detail exactly as it happens. Instead, memory is dynamic. It depends on attention, context, emotional state, and the environment around us. When those elements change, such as when we walk into a new room, the brain reorganizes information to match the new situation. That is why returning to the previous room often helps you remember what you were about to do. The original environment acts as a reminder. The sights, sounds, and spatial layout trigger the brain to reactivate the intention that was previously stored there. This process is known as context-dependent memory, and it shows how strongly our memories are linked to the environments in which they were formed. Understanding these small mental events can give us a deeper appreciation for how the brain works. Even a simple moment of forgetting why you walked into a room reflects the incredible complexity of the systems that manage attention, memory, and perception. Your brain is constantly organizing the world around you, helping you adapt to new situations and focus on what matters most. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy learning about the human body and the science behind everyday health questions, make sure to follow the channel for more videos like this. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like the video and share it with someone who might find it useful too. Stay healthy, take care of your body, and see you in the next video. This video is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional for medical concerns.